Hello everyone. I am the mysterious man who will tell you mysterious stories, both those that I have heard myself and those that you have sent me from all over the world. Today, I will bring you a story that I have heard myself. Now, please listen to the story, The Haunting of Lockhart Stadium. It was an unseasonably cool October night in Fort Lauderdale when Lionel Messi, the global football icon, laced up his boots in the dimly lit locker room of DRV PNK Stadium. The air was electric with the anticipation of another Inter-Miami victory. Yet, beneath the hum of excitement, there was an eerie stillness that hung in the corridors, a quietness Messi couldn't ignore. The locals had warned him about the stadium's haunted history, but Messi had laughed it off, attributing the tales to overactive imaginations. According to legend, the stadium was cursed. Decades ago, a construction worker named Alejandro had met a tragic end while building the original structure. The story went that his spirit never left, seeking solace in the shadows of the field he never got to see completed. Tonight, Messi was about to discover just how true the legend was.
The ominous beginning.
The game had ended with a triumphant 3-1 victory for Inter-Miami, and the crowd roared in celebration. Messi, drenched in sweat, waved to the fans before heading back to the locker room. As he walked through the dimly lit tunnel, he heard the faint echo of footsteps behind him. Probably a teammate, he thought, though when he glanced over his shoulder, the tunnel was empty. The footsteps stopped. Once in the locker room, the atmosphere felt heavy. The fluorescent lights flickered erratically, and the air smelled faintly of wet earth, though it hadn't rained in days. Messi shook his head, chalking it up to exhaustion. As he changed, the sound of a soccer ball bouncing echoed down the corridor. It was faint, but distinct, the steady thud growing louder and closer. He stepped into the hallway, expecting to find one of the younger players fooling around. Instead, the corridor was empty, the ball nowhere to be seen.
Hello, who's there?
Messi called out, his voice steady, despite the unease creeping in.
Silence. The shadow on the pitch.
Feeling unsettled, Messi decided to walk back out to the pitch. The stands were empty now, the floodlights casting long, eerie shadows across the field. As he stood in the center circle, taking in the stillness, a sudden chill ran down his spine. Then he saw a figure at the far end of the field. It was indistinct, shrouded in darkness, but its outline was unmistakably human. The figure stood motionless for a moment, before slowly starting to move, gliding unnaturally across the grass.
Who are you?
Messi shouted, his voice echoing through the empty stadium. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it stopped abruptly, raised an arm, and pointed directly at him. Messi's breath hitched as a cold gust of wind swept through the stadium, carrying with it a faint whisper that sounded like his name.
The locker room incident.
Messi backed away, his heart racing, and returned to the locker room, hoping to find solace in the familiar space. Instead, he found chaos. Lockers were ajar, their contents strewn across the floor. His jersey, freshly hung after the match, was now crumpled and damp as if someone or something had drenched it in sweat. On the mirror above the sink, words were scrawled in what looked like mud.
You will never finish the game.
Messi's blood ran cold. His phone buzzed on the bench, startling him. It was a text from his wife, Antonella. All good. You looked distracted on TV earlier. Call me when you're done. He quickly texted back. I'm fine. We'll call soon. But he wasn't fine.
The truth revealed.
Determined to get to the bottom of this, Messi sought out the stadium's groundskeeper, an elderly man named Hector who had worked there for decades. He found Hector in his small office, a cluttered space filled with old photographs and yellowed newspaper clippings.
Mr. Hector, do you know anything about what's going on here?
Messi asked, his voice tinged with desperation. Hector sighed heavily, rubbing his temples.
So, you've seen him,
he said grimly. Messi nodded. Hector leaned back in his chair and began to tell the story. Alejandro, the ill-fated construction worker, had been passionate about soccer. He often stayed late at the construction site, kicking around a ball during his breaks. But one night, a structural beam collapsed, killing him instantly.
Some say his spirit is angry because he never got to see the stadium completed.
Hector explained.
Others think he's searching for someone who can finally help him rest. But why me?
Messi asked. Hector's eyes narrowed.
You're the greatest. Maybe he thinks you can finish his game. The final confrontation.
That night, Messi decided to face the ghost. Armed with a flashlight and his favorite ball, he returned to the pitch after everyone had gone home. The stadium was eerily silent, the floodlights casting long, ghostly shadows. As he stood at the center circle, he called out,
Alejandro, if you are here, show yourself.
For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the air grew colder, and the figure appeared again, this time closer. It was clearer now, a young man in work overalls, his face pale and sorrowful. Messi placed the ball at his feet and gestured toward the goal.
Do you want to play?
The ghost didn't speak, but it nodded ... The next hour was surreal. Messi and the ghost played an unspoken game of one-on-one. Despite the eerie circumstances, Messi found himself immersed in the game, his instincts taking over. The ghost was skilled, but Messi was relentless. Finally, he dribbled past the ghost and scored. As the ball hit the back of the net, the ghost paused, then slowly began to fade, a faint smile on its spectral face. The temperature returned to normal, and the oppressive heaviness lifted from the air. Messi stood alone on the field, the echoes of their game lingering in the silence.
A new beginning.
The next day, Messi found a note in his locker. It was written in the same muddy script as before, but this time, the message was different.
Thank you. The game is over.
From that day on, the strange occurrences at DRV PNK Stadium ceased. Messi never spoke publicly about the encounter, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Alejandro had finally found peace. And though he continued to bring glory to Inter Miami, Messi would occasionally glance at the empty stands during night games, half expecting to see the ghostly figure watching from the shadows, forever grateful to the player who helped him finish his game. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please click like, share and subscribe to the channel to help my channel develop and motivate me to do the next stories now. Goodbye, and see you again.